Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk simplifying secure access with your host here at Marco Technologies, and we're going to share some content with our friends from Meraki and Duo, all part of the Cisco family. So I think it'll be a really great session. This is a fun topic. I'm Mike Burgard, Marco's Chief Information Security Officer. Hopefully you've joined us recently on some of our other events where we've been talking security threats such as ransomware and top threats out there. So it was ransomware, business email compromise, and some of the nasty stuff going on that 2020 has brought to us in the digital realm as well. This is a great conversation. It ties right into that. We're going to talk about how we can potentially solve some of those problems as we go through it. As we shared a couple weeks ago in another event, over 99% of all business email compromise events would be solved with simple technologies like multi-factor authentication. You're going to see that today. You're going to see some concepts as we move forward in simplifying access, things like zero trust that we've done a number of blogs on recently. You're going to see some of those things referenced in today's conversation as well. And I think ultimately, really what we're trying to do here is secure our networks, make them more secure, make access simpler, and really just make everything easier to run, right? We want technology to be simple, seamless, and usable. That's really what we're after. I'm pretty passionate about these technologies. Marco, ourselves, we consume them. We use Duo. I have Duo on my smartphone. I use it every day. Why did we use it? Because it's simple. It doesn't impede business. A number of things today. I'm going to kind of set the stage, and then I'll get ready to turn it over here. But we're going to use the polling function a little bit. We found that this is really a nice way to engage with folks in these types of virtual events. So when you see a poll pop up, please go ahead and drop an answer in on the poll respective to what we're asking. It helps us kind of steer the conversation and potentially give some content that maybe we wouldn't otherwise give. Use the chat function. You can go ahead and drop questions into chat, and we will monitor that. We will be able to, in some cases, take the question potentially right away. Otherwise, we might hold it till the end, but we will actually be looking at that. So we do want to encourage use of chat functions today. That's a great way to communicate with us. And then last, I just say, have fun. We're gonna see some neat content. Like I said, we're gonna go through everything that we've been talking about from a security perspective in the last couple of months is impacted by this conversation. That's why it's so passionate. I'm passionate about this. It's simplifying access is so important in a digital world where everybody's been moved out of the office into a home environment. There's things that are gonna come up that you're gonna see today that maybe are new concepts to you. That's awesome, right? We wanna just open some minds here and potentially further the conversation down the road. So with that, I'm going to turn the ball over to Mr. John Kirby with Meraki and have him kick it off.
Yeah, Mike, thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you everyone for joining the call. My name is John Kirby. I'm a Meraki channel account manager that works closely with Marco. And so in that, we have been working to really push the boundaries of available Meraki technology to create some of these services that Marco is rolling out to you guys, whether they be focused on network management, deployment services, monitoring, security. All of those things are kind of riding on top of Meraki as a platform here. So what we'll start off with is just an overview around the Meraki portfolio. We're going to do a very quick demo to see some of the visibility and access that it allows your, potentially remote workers or the people that are currently in the office. And then I will pass it off to Vishal from Duo to kind of talk through a majority of the content as it relates to zero trust. So to start, this is an overview around the Meraki platform. It's really purpose-built for cloud security. So across every one of our product lines, which you see here at the top, we have everything from wireless access points, switching, and firewalls, kind of our core network stack, to some of the things that are starting to really get collapsed into the IT suite, whether it be IP cameras, mobile device management, or even some wireless connectivity utilizing cellular signal as a backup ISP connection. All of these things can be leveraged within the Meraki dashboard for management, for monitoring. And a huge thing that Marco has done is take on this dashboard and open it up to their monitoring ticketing platform to help streamline some of the managed services that you guys may be consuming. As an overview of the company, we have 10 years of experience working through this kind of cloud managed network stack, we have over 460,000 customers globally, and that number is constantly outdated as we are getting adopted more and more. And some of our customers have deployed us in as many as 20,000 plus locations, right? And what we're seeing, one of the reasons for adoption here is that Meraki has started to really serve as this platform that utilizes and leverages all of the Cisco security available and makes it very easy and digestible to roll out and monitor. So this is just a kind of quick overview around some of the pieces that we take advantage. Advanced malware protection and threat grid can both be enabled across the Meraki network. We integrate natively with Cisco Umbrella in our access points, as well as in our firewall. And of course, Duo is a huge piece of how we stay connected and safe through multi-factor authentication and identity services across not only the Meraki network, but the Meraki sales team and our engineering resources. The only outside piece that we use from a security software is our content filtering. We do still partner with BrightCloud for that, but everything else is tied directly into Cisco security software. And the real value add that we have as everybody is sort of navigating this new world of remote traffic and the worker remote access is that no matter how people are attributing or utilizing your network, you'll be able to have visibility into where they're at and how they're performing. So here is kind of the global view of the Meraki network. We see we've got several different green circles at our core offices in London, Chicago, and this big one in our San Francisco office, which is yellow because our engineers are constantly breaking things out there. But you would have a very similar view whether your remote offices or workers are just within Minnesota and the Dakotas or maybe across the Midwest. That would all be built into your dashboard here. Before we jump into a quick demo, there are just a few next steps that I'd encourage you guys to pursue after this conversation. One is to check out the Meraki blog. We're constantly rolling out new updates across these devices, which are getting proactively pushed out to our customers because of our licensing model. You can work with Marco to do a risk-free evaluation. So if you think something really stands out here, maybe the firewall or the access points would be interesting, then we can work with Marco to get you guys a free trial. And I'd encourage you to contact your Marco rep if you are looking at some type of upcoming project. They have direct lines into the Meraki reps and can really help you guys kind of navigate whatever opportunity you're working through. And finally, this is just a quick overview of one of the promotions that we're currently running. So first here on us, I mentioned the Meraki licensing model. So each piece of hardware is sold one-to-one with a license. Those come in several different year terms, from 1 all the way up to 10. If you purchase a Meraki license with 3 years or more, you will get an additional year. So that 3 becomes 4, that 5 becomes 6. It's a quick way to get some additional value out of a Meraki opportunity immediately here. So if you guys have anything in the near term, again, Marco can help you guys navigate that. Now, before we shift over to Vishal, I'm going to spend a quick moment just jumping through the Meraki dashboard so you guys kind of understand what that management platform looks like and how it could affect some of your network management. So the first thing you'll see here is the landing page, right? So as you log on, which would be done in the upper right-hand corner, you knock out the multi-factor authentication utilizing Duo. You will land on this page, which will show you all of the different client traffic over the last day, and we can expand that out over the last week, the last 30 days, whatever is interesting to you. What this is going to do is pull up all of the different clients that have attached to the network and let you know how they've attached. So whether they have a wired or a wireless connection, that will be shown in this pesky little client view that doesn't want to load. Another big piece that you'll be able to see here is all of the different applications that have been utilized across your network. So predictably, WebEx is top. Pretty much all of these kind of meeting pieces, VoIP and video conferencing, are what's really driving a lot of our traffic within this kind of remote work environment. As you go down, you can see Netflix, YouTube, maybe some things that are not work related, right? So you'd have the ability to click in here, recognize what clients are attributing to that role, and then make different decisions based off of that. But what we can see here is all of our wired, our client VPN clients, wirelessly connected, etc. So it really provides some visibility across who is using your network and how they're using it. The things that I want to focus on today are just some of that threat protection, how you can enable that across your network, and then how that shows up in our monitoring platform. So across each of our products, you'll notice that all of these have a configure and a monitor piece. So within the security and SD-WAN appliance, that's our MX firewall, you can go in and scroll down to threat protection, and it will come on and give you some really easy kind of boxes to click here. So currently we have Cisco's advanced malware protection enabled. We have current whitelisted URLs so that we can make sure that they are not going to get blocked by this AMP, by the AMP rules here. Those are all listed here. And then we can go through either enable or disable threat grid and then set rules for intrusion detection and prevention. Currently, we have the prevention mode on here. Depending on how strict you want to be across your network, you can disable this altogether or just set up a detection rule. And then the rule set is based off of how secure this needs to be, right? So these rules are all outlined on our documentation page, but essentially we can either optimize for connectivity across all clients or we can focus on security. Now that we've set those rules, we can go into our security center here, and this is going to pull up a summary over the last 2 weeks of all of our MX summary events. We noticed that there were 2,300 blocked events here. So as you click into that, it will pull up some additional information around affected clients and the prevalent threat types. So it really takes out some of the knob turning and management pieces that have historically been difficult or time consuming and allows you to quickly understand what is happening on your network, how your network handled it, and give you an idea of if there's further steps to rectify whatever issue is happening on your network. Again, because of how closely Marco and Meraki work together, we have a very good relationship between our engineering teams, and they can very easily walk you through all of these different types of events or deployment pieces to make sure that your network is optimized for your use case. With that, I am going to pass it to Vishal. I just wanted to give you guys an overview of what you could take advantage of on the Meraki dashboard and some of the security pieces about how we leveraged Cisco security software across our networks. And so, Vishal, let me go through and make you presenter. And you should be set to start sharing.
All right, thanks, John. That was a very sleek demo of the dashboard. Thank you. So I'm Vishal Gupta. Let me share my deck here. So thanks again, John. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vishal Gupta from Duo Security Product Management Team. And today I would be covering a few topics. I would be going over an overview of Zero Trust Security Framework. After that, I will touch upon the Cisco's Zero Trust Security Solution, as well as overview of Duo and how it fits into the Cisco's Zero Trust vision. And finally, how Duo and Meraki integrations and how do they provide the secure access solution based on the Zero Trust principle. So I hope you will find this, this content both informative as well as useful. So before we go into the Zero Trust, let us take a step back to understand why there was a need felt for a different approach to security. So let us take a quick glance at the shifting landscape and its impact on the security. So traditionally, we started here at the core, where we were protecting the users, devices, application, and data. And all of these elements were residing inside the secure parameter, the secure corporate enterprise network. And this is what we called the traditional security perimeter. While these technologies still exist and they're widely used, but it is no longer sufficient due to a shift in the IT landscape. Because as users, devices, and applications, they move outside of the traditional network, um, the current security perimeter of corporate network is no longer sufficient. And because of the current pandemic situation, it has accelerated the shift by forcing thousands of organizations across the globe to adopt to a more remote work culture. So due to this shift in the landscape from moving away from a secure enterprise infrastructure network to the outside world, the threat landscape has also changed. So as users and their devices and applications moved out of traditional security perimeter, they became more vulnerable and natural target for hackers. And that is why we have seen a surge in hackers targeting them. So for example, 81% of all data breaches, they involve some or other form of compromised credential. So because of this reason, there was a need that was felt for a different way of thinking of securing access to applications and data, which are all over the place. So a new model that can provide security outside of this perimeter all the way to users and their devices. And this is where the zero trust based security framework comes in picture. So what's different about zero trust as compared to the traditional approach? In the traditional approach, an access request is trusted based on if it is inside or outside of the trusted network location. Whereas in a zero trust approach, the trustworthiness of every access request is established regardless of its location. So in a traditional approach, if a attacker is able to breach the initial security perimeter and get inside the network, he or she can travel laterally easily and can reach the groundswells of critical applications and data. And also, since it is based on the perimeter, it doesn't really extend to the new world of cloud, BYOD, mobile, hybrid cloud environment. Whereas in a traditional approach, since the security is not assumed based on the location or the network, it is rather established based on the identity of the user, the device hygiene, and other contextual factors. So this approach is can be extended to the security to secure BYOD, remote access, hybrid cloud environment kind of scenarios, the more modern enterprises. So just to summarize, in the essence, the zero trust approach is about never trusting, but always verifying. So trust is not derived, but it's always asserted for every request that's made within an IT environment. So so once you deploy a zero trust based approach, it enables you to secure access to everything across your entire IT environment. You can, and by deploying that, you can gain visibility into who and what is accessing your application and network. This enables you to identify any indicators of breaches by looking at any abnormalities, and also securing applications and network by policy-based access control rather than just location, or than just because a request is coming within an enterprise network or outside of the enterprise network, and by deploying the principle of least privileges, which is making more granular access both to the network as well as to the application, you can reduce the risk in the attack surface. So there's a lot of hype and lot of chatter about the zero trust, which could lead to some confusion. So just to clarify, zero trust is not a single product. It's not a single technology. It's not a security standard yet, and definitely not a character from Game of Thrones. But it is a security framework, a new approach of securing your access. And first and foremost, it's all about access. You will see there's a lot of hype around it. I have seen all sorts of security vendors trying to attach and position themselves as a zero trust vendor. Uh, but we have spoken to hundreds of our customers, and we have reached a conclusion that it's all about access and how do you secure the access. So it's a emerging security framework. It's an emerging category. A lot of analysts have started classifying the different vendors into this category, but there's a lot of hype out there. So with that, let me take a quick dive into what does that mean for Cisco? How does Cisco, or what is Cisco portfolio? What are the type of Cisco solutions, and what does Cisco think about the zero trust security? So for Cisco, the zero trust security essentially means a comprehensive approach to securing all access. And I'm stressing upon all access because I will come to a little bit more detail about it. What do I mean by all access? But it's securing all access across your network and application, and for any user, any device, any location. So when we say all access, we mean any access made within an enterprise IT environment. So which means that access made by people, by humans, access made by machines for accessing any work stuff. So when we say people, it could be your internal and external stakeholders, employees, contractors, customers. And by machine, we mean it could be Internet of Things devices, IoT devices. It could be an application to application interaction via the APIs, or within a more modern application in a microservices environment. It could be one microservice talking to another microservice. For example, a caching service talking to a database, an application layer talking to a database. And all of these people and machines and different processes, they're trying to access work stuff, which means they're trying to access users with their devices, mobile devices, BYOD devices, trying to access application or data, or one application in one cloud using an API, trying to access another application in another cloud, or Microsoft services talking to each other. So the entire idea is to assume a zero trust based security and asserting the trustworthiness of that request before giving access to that request. So all of these all of these access requests within an enterprise IT environment can be classified into three different pillars. So the way we like to classify them is zero trust for the workforce, zero trust for the workload, and the zero trust for the workplace. So by zero trust for the workflows, we mean is that protecting your workforce, your employees, your external, internal stakeholders using their devices when they're trying to access any application or data. And the key use case there that's emerging now is secure remote work. So that's one of the key use cases in terms of securing your workforce. And the lead product, the Cisco solution for that is Duo. Similarly, the zero trust for the workload, by that we mean that protecting the applications, all the inter-application communication that happens in a multi-cloud, an application running in an AWS trying to talk to another application running in Azure, as well as any intra-application communication happening. So for example, if you have a microservices type of architecture, so a caching service is trying to talk to your database service. So securing all of those connections within your workload, within your application. So securing across multi-cloud is the key use cases that we have seen that has emerged for securing the workload. And Cisco's secure workload is a solution for that, which primarily consists of declaration. And then zero trust for the workplace. By that we mean that securing the access when the users and devices, including IoT devices, when they're trying to get on to the enterprise network. And the key use cases the key use case that emerges there is network visibility and segmentation, and software-defined access for workplace is a Cisco's offer or solution for that, which primarily consists of identity services engine ICE as well as Cisco DNA. So between those three Ws, as we like to call it here, the zero trust for the workforce, workload, and workplace, we believe that all type of access requests that emerges within an enterprise IT environment can be secured. And I'm really pleased to announce this, that Cisco has been named again into the Forrester Zero Trust Wave as a leader. This is the second year in a row where Cisco has been called out as a leader for the Zero Trust based solution offering. So this was all about the Cisco's offering for the Zero Trust. And I would request the key takeaway from that previous slides was the three Ws: Zero Trust for the workload, for the workplace, and for the workforce. Now let's take a dive into Duo, which is a Cisco's offering for Zero Trust for the workforce. So Duo delivers a Zero Trust for the workforce by verifying the identity of the user with multi-factor authentication, ensuring the security hygiene of endpoint. We like to call it as a trusted devices or device trust. So establishing a user trust with multi-factor authentication, establishing device trust with ensuring it's hygiene and compliant, as well as if it's a BYOD or a corporate managed. And then ensuring that all the applications within an enterprise, either running internally or a SaaS application, is protected by granular access policies, more contextual access policies, and in this process, providing the complete visibility. So we are frequently asked that how do you deploy the Zero Trust model for a workforce that is easy and effective? So there is no one clear-cut answer for that, but we recommend this particular model. This is what we have seen. A lot of our customers have taken this path or this journey in deploying the Zero Trust for the workforce. So before we walk through this journey, I just want to emphasize here is that it's not important that you have to deploy all of these components at one go. It's not a heavy lift deployment, and it's not that you have to always start at the step one, but it is important, it's necessary that you complete the deployment of all the different elements of it for a complete architecture, complete deployment. So what we have seen that our customers typically start with the step one, where they establish the user trust, which means they deploy the multi-factor authentication to confirm the user identities. And once they get a handle on all the users who are accessing their applications, they turn on the access visibility, which means all the different applications users are trying to access, the different types of devices that they're using to access, and the relation between the users and the type of devices they are using to access. Once you get the visibility, once you get a handle on all of your users and their identities, then turn on the device trust, turn on the device security, which means ensuring that these devices meet your compliance requirements in terms of the operating system security patch, browser security patch, firewall, and other security postures that you may have, and also turning on your BYOD policies, whether a device is a corporate managed or it's a BYOD devices. So turn on the device security policies. And then eventually tightening up and making your access policies more contextual and more fine-grained, ensuring that users get access to only the applications they need to access. So enforcing the contextual access policies And all of this, you can try doing it for your handful of crown jewels, critical applications, but eventually expanding it to all different types of applications. So that's the kind of journey that we have seen that our customers are taking. There's a survey here. So I'll leave this slide here for a minute. So you might be seeing a survey popping up on your screen. So as I mentioned that it's not necessary that you have to start at step one. We have seen a lot of customers just because of the maturity of their IT environment, they may start at step three, is ensuring the device security and eventually getting on to more contextual policies. Sometimes customers just like to start with gaining the access visibility, just ensuring and understanding all the devices and users before putting any kind of control or access policies around that. A few more seconds left for the survey. All right, the poll has ended. So what I see is that majority of you have answered that that you have started your journey by confirming the user identity. That's where I see most of them, and then by gaining the access visibility. So that sounds almost what we have seen in thousands of our customers. They follow the same path, turning on the user identity, multi-factor authentication, and then gaining more visibility and then tightening up the policies around the devices.
Yeah, and
so thanks for your
say,
poll.
so Vishal, I think that's pretty expected, right? Especially for the last 18 months. I think everybody on this call now has basic multi-factor on their email, right? So everybody on this call has that, right? But now everybody's trying to turn the screws to it, right? To tighten things up the next step, right? So thanks for all that provided that feedback we expected, but it does look like some of you are farther down the road and trying to progress down the zero trust model.
That's right, Matt. The whole COVID situation has unfortunately accelerated, or rather has rather fortunately accelerated some of this journey to the zero trust deployment. So let's look at each of these pillars of the zero trust for deploying zero trust for the workforce. So starting with multi-factor authentication. So Duo by far is the industry leader when it comes to multi-factor authentication. And it is the easiest solution available both for end user as well as for IT admin. It is not only easy to deploy, but it is easy for self-enrollment for the users, as well as it's easy to use once the users are enrolled. So typically what we have seen a user self-enroll into Duo under 5 minutes. And it is, and that actually considerably reduces burdens on IT admin. So one of our customer, Boston University, was able to enroll about 24,000 students in less than 2 months. And not only that it's the easiest, but it also provides more than half a dozen different multi-factor authentication options or methods. So admin can offer a lot of flexibility to end users, which is another key factor that we have seen for the adoptability of the solution, because it's not only give flexibility for IT admin to meet the compliance requirement, but also it gives the flexibility for end users, and end users always like flexibility, and that leads to a larger or a higher adoption of such security controls. And by far, we have seen the Duo Push is the most used MFA method. About 70 to 80% of all the methods, Duo Push is the number one method. And by the way, Duo was a pioneer in Duo Push, or rather the push notification method. So as you can see here, we provide more traditional SMS or phone call, as well as more modern, more secure like push or D2F tokens. The next element to the journey for deploying the zero trust for the workforce is device trust. And the way we establish the device trust is by first gaining the visibility of all the devices, all different types of devices users are using, mobile, non-mobile, different types of operating systems, the browsers they're using, the security patch, the softwares they're running on it. So we get the complete visibility into the different types of devices. And then assessing their security posture, which means that are they meeting your security or the compliance requirements? And the key here is the way Duo does it does not deploy a more intrusive or a heavy-handed approach like MDM or EMMs, but it's a very light application-based approach that it takes. And once the security posture is ascertained and the policies are applied, continuously inspecting whether the device continue to meet the security posture requirements at the time of access. So with the visibility, with the security posture and the continuous inspection, and including whether the device is a BYOD device or a corporate managed device, we establish the device trust. So the way we do the complete visibility is that you would be able to see the different types of operating system as I was mentioning, Mac, Windows, Androids. And by the trusted endpoint here, we mean is that whether these endpoints are BYOD or they are corporate managed or corporate owned devices. And by security posture, the security posture is fetched by Duo by either using Duo mobile apps for the mobile platforms or Duo device health app for non-mobile devices like desktops, Macs. And we are able to, for the mobile devices, we are able to check for more than a dozen different security posture, as well as for the device health, much more deeper understanding about if the firewall is turned on or if the encryption is enabled. So the key difference here is that the way Duo does it is deploys an application and not an agent. And the difference here is that application is controlled, managed by the end users. They have a complete control over not only deployment, but also what that application can do. So they can always shut it off if they feel that this is too intrusive or it's not meeting their privacy concern. Whereas agents are deployed by the IT admins, and end user has very little say both in terms of deployment or in terms of what agent is doing or can do on those users' devices. And by continuous inspection, so for example, here we have an integration with Cisco AMP for endpoint, where when the user is using the devices to access the application, then the AMP for endpoint detects the status of the devices, whether the device is compromised, and then it feeds that information at the time of access to the Duo, and Duo takes that into consideration for allowing or denying the access. And post login, when the session is started, the endpoint protection, the Cisco's endpoint protection, continues to check the device health, and if it finds that the device has been compromised, it feeds it back to the Duo, and Duo flags it off as well as kills the session for any future access. And we are expanding this continuous access inspection use cases with the other vendors within the industry. The next element to securing for the workforce is to ensure that every application is protected. So Duo comes packaged with hundreds of applications pre-packaged with the Duo, or it can be easily integrated within minutes. Any web application takes less than 10 minutes to be protected by Duo. And in terms of more adaptive policies, you can create the adaptive policies which are either based on the users or the groups or the devices, the device posture of the users, or other contextual information. So for example, you can create the policies like privileged users should be able to access certain critical applications only using the corporate-owned devices where the firewall is turned on and the encryption is enabled at the time of access. So those types of granular access policies can be configured based on the types of applications. This is a new feature that we released. It's called Trust Monitor. So here, when the users are trying to access the application, we collect the authentication logs. That gives us a very rich, deep information about the user pattern in terms of when are users typically accessing these applications, which type of two-factor authentication they are deploying. So we ingest all of these logs, we process all of these logs, and we can get any kind of anomalies that we see. So for example, unrealistic geo-velocity, super login, Superman login kind of a thing, where you see a login from North America and after half an hour, you see a login coming from Europe. You can see new U2F devices coming in, which you have not seen the users using before. Or you can see an unusual IP address that the user is coming or is accessing from. And our customers use this feature in multiple different ways. So for example, for policy decisions. So for example, a legit user is trying to access but in a critical application, but from personal device, which is not a very typical for that user, then that can guide the admins that they probably need to tighten their security policies and harden their security posture to say that these privileged users should be accessing only from the corporate manager, corporate-owned devices and not from personal devices. Similarly, if we see any anomalous activity, that can indicate either an actual attacker is using a compromised credential. So we can identify those compromised credential situation. And if the attacker is banging the door, or there's actually a credential theft that has happened. So those kind of patterns can be identified and flagged off. So for example, here, it will identify that this particular user is always uses Duo Push 87% of the time, but somehow he started using SMS passcode, which is very unusual for these users, given the kind of application he's using. So we flag up those kind of behavior, and it's integrated with other security systems like SIMs or IT management systems for the further investigation. And then Duo also has a Duo Network Gateway DNG, which actually helps to, so DNG is Duo's VPN-less solution for remote access for internal applications. So this enables secure remote access for your employees. And then again, it reduces the load on VPN. It minimizes the risk by giving access only to the required applications. So you don't have to give a full VPN access for a handful of applications. So you can enforce the policy of least privilege access. It's quick to roll out. So you can enable your remote users to quickly access internal applications within days, and then apply the same consistent zero trust based access policies, which is based on user trust, the device trust, and contextual access policies, both for your internal application as well as for your external applications. So we have seen a surge in our customers deploying Duo Network Gateway for remote access, especially the customers who don't want to take a path of VPN. And then the last element to ensure that all applications, so as I mentioned that Duo comes prepackaged with hundreds of applications, either via SAML or natively integrated with the Duo auth prompt. And if you find an application that is not prepackaged, then using SAML within minutes or using our Web SDK, which is available in more than a dozen different coding languages, you can protect your applications. Typically, it takes less than 10 minutes to secure a web application. So that was a quick overview of Duo, which is the zero trust based access solution for the workforce, which means when users with their devices are trying to access enterprise corporate applications and data. So since acquisition, Duo has been working very closely with the rest of the security portfolio, as well as Meraki and bunch of other networking portfolio within Cisco to provide more innovative solution, especially around the simplified secure access. So we have 3 integrations currently with Meraki, and we are working on more than half a dozen other joint solutions to bring the Cisco's Duo as a mechanism for securing all type of accesses. So what we have here is a integration with Meraki Client VPN, again very useful for a secure remote access solution. We have secured the Meraki dashboard using SAML. So again, providing a zero trust based access for privileged users, and then an integration with System Manager. So ensuring that the devices are first enrolled and providing that device trust before allowing those devices and those users to get onto the application and network. So let's look at the System Manager integration. So the way it works and the use cases try to solve is that it checks if a user's device is enrolled into the System Manager, and if it enrolls into the System Manager, and if it meets those compliance requirements as configured in the System Manager, it allows those users and devices to access either any application or get onto the Meraki network. And if we find those devices, if the policy has been configured that the devices are not enrolled, then the access policy is denied. And the way it works is pretty simple. So you have your end devices, you enroll into the System Manager, and then deploy Duo using the System Manager. And then at the time of access, configure the policies that checks for the enrollment as well as the security posture. Other 2 integrations, they are around the VPN, the client VPN. So if a user is trying to access via the VPN, it checks not only for multi-factor authentication, but also checks for the device hygiene, the device trust, as well as it's a BYOD or corporate managed devices before giving access to the VPN, as well as for the admin panel via the SAML integration. It checks for the device hygiene, the user identity, as well as the device trust before giving access for users onto the devices or onto the admin panel.
Vishal, I think that's just one thing I wanted to call out, since a lot of the customers on this call have Meraki. The big thing was like per user logins or single sign-on. You know, everybody on this call hates 50 different logins, right, for 50 different corporate applications, right? So we've tried to streamline that with single sign-on. A lot of people have Meraki networks. Now the big thing is that if you haven't done it already, if you're managed with Marco, we've already done single sign-on, but now the big thing is make sure you do single sign-on with multi-factor into your Meraki admin panel. For those of you that are network admins on the call or log into Meraki for security reasons, that top right one, that'd be a big good next step takeaway for this call.
Absolutely, especially given that these are privileged users, and if this is breached, a lot of serious harm can be done to the network. And Meraki admin panel is our among top 7 or top 8 most used SAML based application for protecting the access to the admin panel. So that was an overview of all the different integrations we have, which are currently in production, that we are supporting. But as I mentioned, we are working on half a dozen other integrations. And one of those integrations that we are exploring is should Duo be tightly integrated to protect all Meraki network access, which means wired, wireless, VPN, or even going into the SD-WAN. So we have been exploring Duo becoming a lightweight network access control NAC solution for Meraki. But just like Meraki, Duo is a cloud native application, and there's a lot of synergy both in terms of what Duo provides as well as what Meraki provides. So this is a survey question. I will leave the slide here for a minute.
Yeah, so as everybody sees the poll pop up, there was a couple questions that came in, right? Good questions about, hey, segmenting internal networks versus public networks, and what does this mean? And, you know, do I need to do zero trust or multi-factor on public networks? The answer is typically, we for sure want to do the basic security like John Kirby talked about, all those security legal liability controls on Meraki. We for sure do that across both, especially the public side. So hopefully that answers your question on the public. But then this is a very good poll question here, where for those actually on corporate network, this is would you see value in actually using Duo to actually authenticate you to get onto your internal network, wired, wireless?
So we have the polling result here, and about 45% of participant has selected option A. And I'm not able to go back and see the poll questions here. Can you, Matt?
Yeah, and that's fine. We can keep moving on this one. There was some questions related to this specific poll, so it's good timing. But I think this is where the rubber meets the road, and I know, Mike, I think as we wrap it up, you were going to cover some of that, but that's really where the rubber meets the road in the corporate office. Just people got a little bit distracted, for those of you that aren't in the office 100%, right? But as we go back to the office, we keep getting requests daily to get more control when people actually do plug in or they go on the wireless, to determine what sort of access they should have, right? Just because in the back of people's minds, right? I'm sure some of you or anybody that's had ransomware attacks, right? You're for sure more worried about not giving access, everybody access to everything inside the castle, right?
That's right. So briefly, the Duo comes in 3 different editions. It's an MFA edition, Access, and Beyond. MFA, as the name suggests, has multi-factor authentication. All of Duo's multi-factor authentication, as well as the single sign-on, is part of the MFA edition. Duo Access is everything in MFA plus more visibility into the devices, more device-based access policies, more policy control, and more adaptive access kind of policies. So more on policies, more on the visibility, more on the device-based policies. And Duo Beyond is everything that Access has, plus the trusted endpoint, by which its ability to identify and distinguish between a BYOD versus a corporate-owned managed devices. The Duo Network Gateway, which allows you to provide the same level of zero trust-based access to your applications running inside your network, private network or public network, as well as Duo Mobile as trusted. So so this is all what I had to share with you today. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope you found this content useful and interesting.
Thanks, Vishal. So hopefully this was good content for everybody. I think, you know, the key things that I would want to take away from this is hopefully everybody's doing multi-factor today. That's kind of the cost of being in business with technology. But we know threats have evolved beyond that. We know that there's a lot of things moving on. Our resources, you know, I heard protect the castle. It's not even protect the castle anymore. Some of my key assets may not even be in the castle. They may be outside the castle somewhere else down the road, such as a cloud or a software as a service resource that uses single sign-on and some of the different technologies available. So zero trust, and really what our goal to accomplish with the zero trust methodology, and this is what the industry set out to do, is to provide that additional layer of protection to your organization, regardless of where the resources are at. You know, it's confirming that user identity, validating that they're coming from trusted devices, looking at where they're going to and what they're trying to access through things like single sign-on and some of those metrics as well. And ultimately, we're coming up with a posture for both the person and the device. It's not I don't trust my employees as a person. It's I can't trust their user identity, right? Their email, username, and password. Because those things, unfortunately, nowadays are too easy to get a hold of and go from there. So great content today. Thanks for a few folks who had pretty good chats going as well. And yeah, we look forward to talking to you further and continuing the conversation. Thanks for joining.